So, I have done several videos on the topics of sluts and slut shaming, so I kind of consider myself to be something of an expert in this area of sluts and whores. So, I stumbled across this one video by Miss Hannah Winton. Now, I've encountered Hannah before in my, The Double Standard of Having Standards Part 3. Yeah, we've exchanged ideas once. Not really. I was just responding to the asinine shit that she said. And so, I know she existed. When I saw her video, get recommended, and I was like, since I'm an expert on sluts and whatnot, may as well share my knowledge with Hannah, since she was so confused on the topic. That being said, let's go.
You know when you're getting ready for a night out with your friends and somebody says, "Do I look like a slut?" And you always have to reply, "No, you don't, you look great." But why do we do this? Why do we need to reassure ourselves that we don't look like sluts? What is so bad about looking like a slut that you want to disassociate yourself from that?
Well, Hannah, the answer to your question is quite simple. You see, men, we have a pretty general idea of what a slut looks like, right? And I'm sure ladies also have a pretty general idea of what sluts look like. Okay, sluts are usually, but not always, attention whores, and thus, because women try to gain attention passively, they show off a lot of their skin, or they try to accentuate their curves, or they try to look younger, right? Because that's how women get attention, usually. Now, of course, you have aggressive women who will go up and talk to men, but for the most part, women try to gain attention passively. Because of this, we pretty much have an idea of what a slut looks like. Okay, and she's usually very revealing and very sexually aggressive. Now, because women know what sluts look like, they don't really want to be associated with being a slut. Why? Well, it usually depends on the type of man they're trying to attract. Now, if she actually is a slut and she wants a one-night stand, looking like a slut would be perfectly fucking fine to her, because that's what she wants. She just wants some dick. But if you're trying to attract a young man who wants to stay with you and, try to date and take you out, you're going to want to look a little more classy, because the way you look has a huge effect on who's going to approach you and the type of attention you're going to get. If men think that you're a slut, then they're probably only going to talk to you only to have sex. That is why your buddies or your friends or all your girls stop and they ask, "Do I look like a slut?" Because it's all depending on the type of attention that she wants to get on that night out. If she wants to get positive attention from a classy man, she's going to dress classy, or try not to look like a slut, because she knows that if any guy tries to talk to her, he's probably looking to just have sex with her. Hopefully that answers your question.
What does a slut even look like? What is a slut?
A slut is a promiscuous woman. Done.
Does a slut look like this?
Well, yeah, she can.
This?
Yeah, she can look like that too.
Or this?
Yeah, definitely. She absolutely could.
How about this?
Yeah, she could look just like that too, Hannah.
Does wearing any of these outfits make me a slut? Or
No. Having lots of sex with people you don't know makes you a slut.
make me look like a slut?
Yeah, some of those outfits are going to draw more attention to yourself, but it will not technically make you a slut, because a slut, once again, is just a promiscuous woman.
It's usually associated with a woman's sexual behavior, but how can you tell how much sex a woman has from the way that she dresses?
That's the thing, Hannah. You can't. What you can do is you can gauge what type of attention she's looking for in that particular day. The other day I saw this one girl, right, walking in some really short shorts, right, and she was like wearing a crop top, like a really short shirt that like showed her belly button, right? And I know a lot of you people are probably like, "Well, Zers, okay, I know you're not gonna say she's a slut. She was probably hot outside." Here's the kicker: it was 55 degrees outside with a wind speed of 18 miles per hour. Yeah, I'm pretty sure she was really, really hot, wasn't she? See, it's kind of how it works.
When we ask our friends, "Do I look like a slut?" what are we actually comparing ourselves to?
You're comparing yourself to attention whores who dress really sexually and revealing to passively gain attention from men.
I asked you guys on Twitter, Facebook and Tumblr, what is a slut?
Why didn't you just go to the dictionary?
So I could figure out whether I'm a slut or not, because Lord knows I get called one often enough.
Well, Hannah, to put your mind at ease, a slut is a promiscuous woman. Are you a promiscuous woman? No, then you're not a slut. Case closed.
No surprises here, but Tumblr, you were the most progressive. So give yourselves a pat on the back. Slut is a patriarchal social construct used to hold women to a stricter set of standards than the ones men are held to.
Sometimes.
A ridiculously derogatory term to describe women who apparently sleep with many men, but is also applied when they dress provocatively. A social construct. Duh.
Sometimes. Some flipping times. I just can't believe the BS that... Let's keep going.
I like this one a lot. A woman with the sexual morals of a man. Ooh, shady.
Yeah, but that would be ridiculously confusing. I'm a man, right? And my morals are is that you shouldn't have sex until you're married, and you should try to only have sex with that one person for the rest of your life. Technically speaking, if a woman felt the same way I feel, then that would mean that she's a slut. Except other people use that term in the context of a promiscuous woman. In other words, that's a dumbass definition, because not all men have the same morals. Dumbass.
Twitter, you did your best in 140 characters. A human affected by double standards.
Forget it.
Misogynistic concept that doesn't actually exist.
You have got to be freaking kidding me. It's a neutral term. Sometimes, let's just keep going.
Someone who doesn't conform to your ideas of female sexuality and thus needs to be shamed for it.
Listen, buddy, old pal. A slut is a neutral term. Either you are a slut or you're not. Yes, are there some negative connotations to the word slut? Absolutely, because not very many people... Okay, let's be specific. Not very many women are particularly fond of sluts. So, yeah, and female peer groups, being a slut is pretty fucking negative unless you are all a group of sluts. And even then, you probably all don't really trust each other because you're all sluts. So, I mean... On the other hand, young men are particularly fond of sluts. It's older men who aren't really fond of them all. I mean, I'm just saying, like, let's just keep going.
A slut is someone who knowingly uses sex to manipulate people. I'm gonna argue with this one because I believe that somebody who knowingly uses sex to manipulate people isn't a slut, they're just a nasty person.
So why can't she just be a nasty slut? I mean, that doesn't sound mutually exclusive, Hannah. Like, you can be a bad slut. I mean, you can also be the CEO of a company and be a very promiscuous woman. I mean, being a slut just means you're promiscuous. It's really that simple of a concept.
They're just not nice. They're a sexual manipulator.
Yeah, but it's not mutually exclusive. It would not make them any less of a slut.
And Facebook. Oh, Facebook. You are the least progressive. You should go and like my Facebook page, turn it into a happier place. A woman who sleeps around with quite a large number of men. A woman who has sex with countless amounts of men. Now, when I was reading these, I thought, okay, so lesbians can't be sluts because they're not sleeping around with men. Fuck you. Great. A slut is someone that has way too much sex or someone that dress really provocatively that they can make you think that they're having way too much sex.
There you go. Now, I prefer a promiscuous woman simply because it's more point of fact. I mean, either you are or you're not. It's just really simple. That's just me. I just prefer that one, that definition.
Cheats on you during a relationship and goes behind your back. Again, that person isn't a slut. they're a horrible, nasty, cheating person.
Hannah, they're not mutually exclusive. You can be a horrible person that is a slut. Just because you're a bad person doesn't mean you can't be a slut, and vice versa.
A slut is what every man hopes a woman becomes when they are alone together. This one kind of creeps me out, as well as men wanting women to act like sluts in the bedroom. If a man wants to have sex with you and you reject him, then he will call you a slut for not wanting to sleep with him. So if you do sleep with him, you're a slut, and if you don't sleep with him, you're also a slut.
Well, see, Hannah, to put your mind at ease once again, the guy who called that girl a slut when she did not want to sleep with him only said that because his feelings were hurt. Truth be told, he used the word incorrectly. So, you should not take him seriously at all. You should just acknowledge that he had his feelings hurt and move on. Because if you're not going around sleeping with people, or not going around sleeping with lots of people you don't know, then by definition of the word, you're not a slut, and thus you should never be insulted when someone calls you a slut when you're not a slut.
Great. You can't win, can you?
No, you can win. You can just ignore those guys and get into a committed relationship with someone that treats you with kindness and respect. That's how you win the game.
Facebook does redeem itself. There were some really good comments on Facebook too. They weren't all like that. A concept constructed by society to shame women for engaging in sexual activity of their own free will because the patriarchy is uncomfortable with women having their own sexuality rather than them being the sexual objects of men.
And you know, this will be the topic of its own video in particular. But to give you guys a little preview of that video, what precisely is the fucking difference of being the sexual object of a man and owning your own sexuality if it all gets to the same point, and the same point is a bunch of people hedonistically having sex and completely forgetting the mere fact that, one, we have to have sex to continue the human species, and two, it's the most intimate thing you do with another person. Lots of emotions are involved in the act. I mean, I'm going to extrapolate this on this point a hell of a lot more in its own video in particular, but I mean, just seriously, think about that. What exactly, who wins and who's gaining anything in that exchange, right? Like I said, that'll be its own video, so let's keep going.
My opinion that there's no such thing as a slut. People's sexual behavior is none of your business.
Stop you there, Hannah. If you intend on having sex with that person, then yeah, it does become your business. Because if that woman or if that man has HIV, I think that's something you need to know so you don't get HIV, you know? If you intend on having sex with somebody, then their sexual history does become your business. And your sexual history becomes their business. Because they need to know whether or not they're being safe or not. I mean, I know it doesn't really sound like that's the way it should be, except, well, that's the way it should be, considering the fact that that's the closest thing you do to another fucking human being, but I mean, whatever.
And people can sleep with as many or as little people as they like, and that does not make them a slut, or it doesn't make them prude. It just makes them who they are, and that's their choices, and it shouldn't affect you.
Yes, Hannah, that is their choice, and that, by definition of the word slut, would make them a fucking slut. Okay, like, in these videos I make about sluts, I say, you can do whatever you want to do. If you want to go around and have as much sex as you like, you can do that. The only problem I have is not analyzing the situation. If you haven't analyzed your life, and if you haven't thought about it and said, well, these are the consequences, and I don't care, well then that's my problem, okay? Like, you need to understand that when you have sex with someone, you're messing with the primordial power to create another human being. When you have sex with somebody, there's a chance that they might have a sexual disease. When you mess with somebody, there's a chance that you're going to gain emotions for that person, okay? And if you understand that, well, okay, do what you want to do. It's your life. I'm not gonna fuck you, but I mean, do you? if you haven't thought about that, well, that's a huge problem, and you should think about that. Being a slut is just point of fact. You're promiscuous. It's neutral. Either you do or you don't do it. Okay? It's that fucking simple of a concept.
And we also can't determine whether or not someone is a slut from the way that they dress.
This is true. We can, on the other hand, gauge whether or not they want attention, though. That is what we can gauge.
Because as much as you like to think it, there is no correlation. And also there's no such thing as a slut, so however a woman dresses, she's not a slut because sluts don't exist. So
listen, Hannah, you can't arbitrarily decide whether or not sluts exist or they don't fucking exist. Okay, you don't get to choose that. You don't get to say sluts don't exist because I don't want sluts to exist. Because you're one person, that's the first thing. Second thing, the word slut has been in usage for well over 500 years. So, well, is it 500 years? I know the word slattern was originally... Okay, well, without getting into the etymology of the word slut, again, I have other videos on that. Yeah, Anna, you don't get to choose language. You don't get to decide whether or not a concept does or does not exist. You don't have that power over the English language specifically, okay? You can't do that. The sluts definitely exist because point of fact is either you are a promiscuous woman or you're not. Done.
if you can take anything away from this video, let's stop calling each other sluts and stop calling other people sluts. I know that a lot of feminists have started to reclaim the word slut.
Which is completely fucking asinine.
And that's totally cool. They're using it in a very sex-positive, self-empowering way.
Which makes no sense because slut is a very neutral term. Either you are or not one, so...
And that's cool, but I still feel like most people don't use it that way. So we need to educate people to stop using it that way, and then if you want, you can start to use it in a way that you find self-empowering. I'd love to hear your thoughts on the word slut and what slut shaming is in the comments. Please give this video a big thumbs up if you enjoyed it, and I'll see you guys soon. Bye!
Huh. Well, if there's anything you can gain from Miss Hannah Winton, she's probably one of the most liberal individuals I've ever seen on YouTube. And I just thought it was freaking hilarious that she made a video where she just proclaims that sluts don't exist, as if she has the ability to do that. And also, again, since I'm pretty much an expert on the whole slut thing, I decided to share my knowledge with her. So, yeah, guys, that's pretty much the end of her video, and subsequently the end of mine. If you guys liked this video, please go ahead and click the like button. Go ahead and click that subscribe button. Comment in the comments below, and as always, have a great day. I'll see you cool cats soon. Adios.